Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So, shall we start the session?
Yes, we can start.
Yeah.
I will just
No.
share the slides there.
Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Mastering Up International Conference Series 2025 to 2026. Today's theme is International Conference on Oceanography and Climate Change, and super exciting stuff again. And big cheers to Mr. Saravanan Ravi and all our amazing participants. You all rock. So let's keep it chill and interactive and fun. Grab your coffee or juice, something. So let's dive in. So, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends, a very warm welcome to all of you. It's honestly feels so good to see everyone gathered here for today's session. And just wait. Oi,
So, shall we start, ma'am?
oi, oi. No, sir, just wait. We are not just here for a lecture, but for a meaningful conversation on something that's shaping the future of our world. So today's top topic: legal implications of sea level rise on maritime boundaries, exclusive economic zones, and baselines under UNCLOS. So might sound a little heavy, but trust me, it is incredibly exciting and important. Sea level rise is not just about climate change, it's about rights, resources, and the way nations interact with each other on global stage. As we dive into this, let's keep one thought in our minds. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And discussions like this are where ideas take root, where awareness builds, and where future leaders, like many of you here, so begin shaping the solutions. So let's keep this interactive, energetic, and inspiring. And before we begin Mr. Saravanan's session, I would like to take a moment to introduce him. So all right, everyone. I hope you are ready for some serious inspiration because today we have the absolute honor of welcoming a truly remarkable personality to our session. So please join me in giving a big cheerful welcome to Mr. Saravanan R, Assistant Professor of Law at Vinayaka Missions Law School. His journey and expertise are not just impressive, but also incredibly motivating for all of us here. Saravanan sir brings a unique blend of academic brilliance and real world impact, from excelling in maritime law at Gujarat Maritime University with distinction to leading as coordinator of the Center for Research on Maritime Law. His work truly bridges law, governance, and climate change. He is guided novel officers presented at global conferences and even contributed to research that safeguards the rights of Indian seafarers. So, what makes him stand out is not just his knowledge but his vision to create stronger legal frameworks that protect both our oceans and the people who depend on them. So, as we welcome him, let's keep this thought in your mind. Great leaders don't just explain the future, they shape it. And today, we have the privilege of learning from someone who is actively shaping the future of maritime law and ocean governance. So, let's settle in, stay engaged, and soak up every bit of wisdom that this session has to offer. And before we dive into today's session, I love to take just a moment to introduce you to something that's close to our hearts. Thames Tech Solutions, a proud Swiss venture that's changing the way we see and use technology. At Thames, uh, we stand by three simple but powerful values: innovation, excellence, and affordability. Whether it's cutting edge engineering or next gen scientific tools, we believe everyone should have access to transformative tech. As the visionary Steve Jobs once said, innovation distinguishes between the leader and a follower, and at times we choose to lead with purpose. From digital marketing and web design to AI powered tools, server management, and mobile app development. Our work spans across industries like aerospace, medical applications, energy, and more. We don't believe in one size fits all. We believe in tailored solutions that help businesses thrive in a world that's constantly evolving. As Albert Einstein wisely said, strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. That's our mission. To add real value through strategy, technology, and a mindset focused on progress. But what makes us most proud is not just our business, it's our impact. With our initiative Mastering Up, we are focused on empowering the next generation by equipping students, especially from rural and underrepresented areas, with real world skills for real world success. Because, as Nelson Mandela also said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So today, as we begin this session, so let's not just learn. Let's imagine, build, and shape a brighter tomorrow together. The future starts now. So at the end, I would like to introduce to the motto of Mr. Saravanan, navigating the future of oceans through law, research, and resilience. So I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Saravanan, and also thanks a lot for joining us today. And over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the warm welcome. So, just give me a moment. I will share the screen. So, hope my PPT is visible.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. So today session, first of all, I would like to thank Mastering Up and also my institution VMLS. So today, we are going to discuss about legal implications of sea level rise on UNCLOS, baseline, EEZ and island. So sea level rise is no more a myth. You see, when UNCLOS is drafted, that when International Convention on Law of the Sea, that is United Nations Convention of Law of the Sea, 1982 is drafted. So what world thought is the coastlines are relatively stable and predictable. So what is the thought process was there will not be any change in the coastline. But when it comes to sea level rise, so sea level rise is no more a myth, as I already said, it is happening. And this assumption is now fundamentally changed by the now being fundamentally challenged by the climate change. So you see these UNCLOS, which has been drafted in 1982, has now been challenged by the climate change and the sea level rise. The provisions of UNCLOS are structured in such a way that the coastlines will not change on the fundamental assumption. But now the coastlines are changing because of the sea level rise. So sea level rise is creating a dynamic, retreating coastline, posing an existential threat to the stability of the global maritime legal order and the sovereignty of the coastal states. So you see, like when there is a coast, when there is a coastline, and because of the sea level rise, the coastlines are not like they are not standard, they are not stable, they are dynamic and retreating the coastline. They are moving towards the land. Because of that, the sovereignty of the state is reducing. So you see that as ocean rise and coastlines retreat, the very geographic foundations upon which the maritime law is built here are shifting beneath our feet, creating unprecedented legal uncertainty for nations worldwide. So what I mean here is all the whole UNCLOS is shattered because of the sea level rise, right? So the interpretation. So there are scholars who interpret in such a way that the present UNCLOS is now being preserved because the 30 years of negotiation, the 1982 convention came into picture after 30 years, almost 40 years of long negotiation. So what is our today's agenda is that the first agenda is like we are going to discuss about the baseline problem. We are going to discuss about the sea level rise as a legal threat because of the ambulatory baseline, and we are going to discuss about the regime of island, and then delimitation in practice, and then the way forward. So the sovereignty crisis, that's all we are going to discuss now. Sea level rise directly threatens the territorial integrity and sovereignty rights of the coastal waters. with small islands and low-lying states. So this is they are going to face the severe consequences when you see. So basically, the viscous cycle of maritime jurisdiction laws is that, so there will be a sea level rise. Of course, it is happening. It is no more a myth, and because of that, there is a land loss because of coastal retreat and erosion, and because of that, baselines are also shifting towards landwards. Baselines are retreating, and because of that, the zones are contracting. Because you know about maritime zones, I will explain in a while. Like when you see UNCLOS, when you study UNCLOS, United Nations Law of the Sea, there are different maritime zones which have been which have been given by the convention, and now this is shrinking and it is starting to disappear. And because of that, sovereign rights, there is a loss of sovereign rights. So the rights are losing, countries are losing their rights over EEZ, over continental shelf, over territorial sea. All those countries are losing it. So everyone knows about this map when we discuss about oceanography, or when we discuss about this maritime law specifically. So everyone knows about this particular zones which have been enshrined under UNCLOS. So you see, there is a territorial baseline. So when there is an increase in the sea level, then the baseline is shifting. Then the baseline has to shift according to the present law. So here you see there is a baseline, but in case if the sea is rising, then there is a shift of baseline. So baseline forms the like mark from which the other territorial zones have been measured. So you see, from baseline, the 12 nautical miles stands for territorial sea, and the next 12 nautical miles stands for contiguous zone. The from baseline, it is 24 nautical miles covering the contiguous zone, and then comes the exclusive economic zone. Outer limit of territorial sea to 200 nautical miles, there is an exclusive economic zone, and then the ICs. And when it comes to seabed and subsoil, you have a continental shelf and the area and an extended continental shelf. So all these things gives the sovereign power, either a sovereignty or a sovereign rights to the coastal states. So coastal states enjoys these sovereign powers. So the present UNCLOS are drafted in mind that this there will not be any sea level rise. I mean, there will not be any shift in the baselines. So that was an idea. But now you see, like, there is a lot of sea level rise, there is a climate change, and because of that there is a sea level rise, and because of that there is a loss of land, and because of that the baseline is being shifting towards land. Because if the baseline started shifting towards the land, then the exclusive economic zone will also lose, like the state will lose certain amount of exclusive economic zone, the state will lose certain amount of contiguous zone. So the sovereignty over all these zones will also be lost, right? So maritime boundary delimitation, okay, so these zones are very easy. They are just a mathematical calculation, and the oceanographer to draw a baseline. I mean, draw a baseline from that. You measure 12 nautical miles, you measure 24 nautical miles or 200 nautical miles. It's very easy. When it comes to states which doesn't have any adjacent or opposite other state, right? But imagine about the countries which are adjacent and opposite. Take India and Sri Lanka, right? This exclusive economic zone is extended up to 200 nautical miles. But when it comes to India and Sri Lanka, the Palk Strait, which is just 24 nautical miles far away, how can we have an exclusive economic zone over there? Because those 200 nautical miles are not possible, right? So there comes the maritime boundary delimitation, which is again stated in UNCLOS. So UNCLOS says that where the maritime zones are not possible, and where there is an opposite adjacent state or an opposite state, then the the formula is to have a maritime boundary delimitation. So in certain cases where coasts of two states fall opposite or adjacent to each other, there is a need for maritime delimitation. So UNCLOS under Article 15, Article 74 and Article 83 prescribes agreement as one of the method. If that is the case, then go for an agreement. The state has to go for an agreement. So say India and Sri Lanka entered into two different agreements. That is 1974 agreement and 1976 agreement to delimitate the maritime boundaries amongst each other. Because this 24 nautical miles is short than 200 nautical miles, so there is a need for the countries to enter into an agreement or a equitable solution, or or a equidistant line, or an equitable solution. So this is prescribed under Article 15, Article 74, and Article 83 of UNCLOS. So basically, when it comes to Article 15, it deals with the delimitation of a territorial sea, and Article 74 deals with the delimitation of the exclusive economic zone, and Article 83 deals with the delimitation of the continental shelf. So these provisions, when you read these provisions, two things are one thing is very clear. So when it comes to territorial sea, there should be an agreement. If the state is not able to enter into an agreement, there is a dispute between the state. There is no there is no possibility for a state to enter into agreement. Then there is a concept called equidistant line. So you go for an equidistant line, equal line, measure each point. You measure between two states and draw a equidistant line, equal line, and then that will be the boundary. And some case there is a special circumstances. What is the special circumstances? Again, take this India and Sri Lanka issue. So if you say Kachati versus island, okay, right, and they both India and Sri Lanka, both the countries have some kind of historical rights over it. Okay, either for fishing or either for drying their nets or whatever it is. So they have their historical rights over it, right? And there is a customary practice over those particular island, or a particular say rock, or whatever object that is geographically naturally formed objects. So in those circumstances, a special circumstances has to be applied. What is the special circumstances? ICJ, International Court of Justice, or EEZs says that this special circumstances has to be evaluated on case by case basis, and if there is an historical customs or historical right over it, then the equidistant can be slightly altered to that point. So between India and Sri Lanka, the Kachati has been given to the Sri Lanka over an agreement, though historical. See, again, Kachativu, whether giving away the Kachativu is legal or illegal, I am not coming to that point. I am just coming to the point whether this particular special circumstances. What is the special circumstances here is, both the countries claim historical rights, and both the countries are able to enter into an agreement. That is fine. If agreement is not able to create, agreement is not able to do, then ICJ will look into these special circumstances, or EEZs will look into these special circumstances and mark the territorial sea. So that is for territorial sea, which is given under Article 15. And when it comes to Article 74 and 83, it speaks about EEZ and continental shelf. The article is similar, the provisions are similar, where it says about the agreement. It is open for the state to enter into an agreement, or it is open for the state to go for an equidistance, and if these two are failing, then the ICJ will look into an equitable solution. That's what happened between India and Bangladesh maritime delimitation. So when it comes to India, Bangladesh, which is adjacent, not opposite, it is adjacent to each other. In this, what happened is that, like, they all, as India has a large coastline, right? Like large coastline, it is almost have 7,000 plus 7,000 odd coastlines, and now India is claiming 11,000 odd coastline, 11,000 odd kilometers of coastline. India has a very large coastline. So because of, but when it comes to Bangladesh, it has very small coastline. So like losing a part of it is not, it is not going to, India is not going to suffer because of that. There should be an equitable solution. So India has agreed for some kind of an equitable solution, and ICJ has come up with some equitable solution when it comes to maritime boundary delimitation between India and Bangladesh, right? So the foundation on baseline, what is this baseline, like the critical state line? So baseline, as I already said, it is a fundamental reference point for the oceanographer to measure the zones, right? So from all maritime zones, right from territorial sea, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, continental shelf, or whatever zones, ICs, whatever it is you are going to say, from the baseline it is going to be measured, right? So the baseline is therefore a legal anchor of the state's maritime jurisdiction. It is the starting point from where the other zones are pressured, right? So UNCLOS says about normal baseline. So what is normal baseline? Normal baseline is nothing but the low water line along the coast as marked on large scale charts officially recognized by the coastal state. So baseline is nothing but a low water line. What is this low water line? Low water line is the line even during the high tide, the line is visible. So even during the high tide, what do you mean by high tide? Because sometimes, you would have seen in the newspapers and newses and other things, like the sea water is coming towards the land and it is going back away from the land. So away is that is during the low tide, and during the high tide means it is coming. It is just coming above the land, and even during the high tide there is a low water line which is marked, right? And during that is the starting point of the normal baseline. From that mark the oceanographer will start measuring the other baselines, right? And then comes the straight baseline. Sometimes what will happen is that there will be a deeply intended or cut into or a fringe islands. Say you see Andaman and Nicobar Islands, or you see other Philippines or Indonesians. So these are deeply intended cuts are there. Sometimes what will happen is that it is not possible to draw a straight normal baseline. So from then what will be the what oceanographers will do is that they will draw a straight baseline according to the rules laid down under UNCLOS. UNCLOS says there are certain rules. I'm not going in detail about it, but straight baselines are drawn based on the rules mentioned under the law of the sea, right? This will be used only when there is a deeply indented cut into or a fringe of islands. So to make it simple, you see Gujarat, you know about the Gujarat coast, right? It is kind of a G, the G structure. So it is not possible to draw a normal baseline and go inside the G and come back and then do it. Rather, what India has done is India has done a straight baseline and drawn a straight baseline. It will close the G, right? So that is considered as a straight baseline. Okay? So the sea level rise threat, as sea level rise, the low water line under Article 5 retreats inland, legally compelling the baseline to move with it. This results in a progressive shrinking of states' maritime jurisdiction and economic concerns. So what? So according to these laws, which is the existing UNCLOS, which is existing laws, 1982 laws. According to this laws, it is the normal baseline is the low water line. So if that is the case, when there is a sea level rise, then now India has fixed a certain baseline, and this particular baseline has to move or has to retreat inland. So because of that, there will be a loss of other zones also. So that is the threat which is there under the present law. So the ambulatory baseline crisis, you can see the traditional legal doctrine holds the baseline must follow the physical geography. That means as there is a sea level rise, the baseline has to shift because the baselines are low water lines. Low water lines in the sense, even during the high tide, that particular line is visible, right? So when there is a sea level rise, then of course there will be a change in the baseline, right? So the core problem is as coastlines physically retreat due to erosion and inundation, the normal baseline is obligated to follow it, leading to the gradual but relentless erosion of the state's maritime space and sovereign jurisdiction. So the economic devastation, because of that, because of the shift of baseline, then the states will face an economic loss because there are abundant of resources which are available under the sea, right? And the nation's economy depends upon the resources which are available at sea. Okay, imagine about these small islands like Tuvalu and then Myanmar. So these are the small island states, and because of these islands, because of the sea level rise, what they will lose the major economic resources. There will be the baseline has to shift inside, and because of the shift in the baseline, the maritime zones are also shifting, and because of that, what will happen? There will be a loss of economic. There will be a loss for the country, economic loss. So small islands and low-lying states could face the potential loss of up to 40% of their exclusive economic zones, which contain critical natural resources, including valuable fisheries and hydrocarbon deposits. So extinction threat. So sometimes, so you can see here like Maldives, Tuvalu, Kiribati, complete submergence of land territory. There is a statistics which says that the entire Maldives will not be there, will not be visible in 2050 or 2050 or 2000 if I'm not wrong. So there is a possible, because of the sea level rise, there will be an extension of a statehood itself. Because under international law, under Montevideo Convention, territory is considered as one of the major ingredient to identify the statehood. Because without land, there will not be any state, right? But if because of the sea level rise, if a low lying island is going to disappear, then what will happen? Then what is the solution which has been given under law? Whether UNCLOS say anything about it, and what about the refugees over it? Where they will go? If the entire country, if entire country's land has been submerged through water by the sea level rise, what will happen? Whether countries will accept as a climate refugees. So this has to be discussed in detail. It is a topic separately which can be discussed about the climate refugees. So what are all their rights available to them, and how countries will treat them, right? So the central dilemma is, does the traditional physically grounded nature of the baseline crime, imperative legal stability, and the fundamental protection of state existence, can international law adopt to preserve sovereignty when geography itself is changing? So there is when the geography itself is changing, what is the legal stability which is available in the present law, present legal system? That itself is a question, right? So when it comes to, okay, we will see about the regime of islands now. So what is the law which governs? Like UNCLOS Article 121 distincts island and a rock. So the legal classification of maritime features determines what zones they generate. Because we are saying island, so all the features in water is not an island. So island has a separate definition. So it says Article 121 clause 1 and 2 says that a naturally formed area of land surrounded by water which remains above water at high tide. This is non-negotiable threshold for island status under Article 121 under UNCLOS. So which says that it should be a naturally formed area of land. Island is something which cannot be created. That means an artificial island cannot be created. And even if it is created, that cannot generate maritime zones. Because maritime zones can be generated only through islands and not to other modes. So this is a non-negotiable threshold. And if you see, when once an island has been agreed upon, and when the state recognizes a particular geographical feature as an island, then that particular island will qualify for a full maritime zones. That is territorial sea of 12 nautical miles, contiguous zone of 24 nautical miles, exclusive economic zone of 200 nautical miles, and continental shelf of 200 nautical miles, and maybe there will be an extended continental shelf of up to 350 nautical miles. But if the particular feature or a particular geographical feature is not qualified as an island, then it will not have all these maritime zones, right? So island is something which is a naturally formed area of land and visible during the high tide also. And also there is a clause 2, Article 121 clause 2, which I have not mentioned in the slide, but clause 2 says about the human habitation. So there should be an habitation also. So that is also necessary. Okay. So if these two conditions are satisfied, then it becomes an island. Otherwise, it will become rock, because rock under Article 121 clause 3 of UNCLOS describes rock, which says about a feature that cannot sustain human habitation or economic life of its own, despite being above water at high tide. Even that might be visible during the high tide, but which cannot sustain human habitation. There is no possibility of human being habited over there. That is rock, and this rock will not have any maritime zones. I mean, it will not have EEZ, that is 200 nautical miles, but it only has territorial sea and contiguous zone, which is comparatively much lesser than to the EEZ or a continental shelf. Right? The functional test has been confirmed in landmark cases, including the South China Sea arbitration. You can see that South China Sea developed an artificial island based on the rock. So even though so that is not possible, that will not gather or gain EEZ or continental shelf. They will just have territorial sea and contiguous zone. Why it matters? As I already said, we have to first distinction. There should be a distinction between an island and a rock, because only based on the distinction the maritime zones can be drawn, right? And boundary disputes can be resolved effectively. So, a feature that loses its island status due to submergence lost massive maritime zones and associated economic effects. So, moving to that, sea level rise, loss of insular status, you can see here. So, sea level rise create a stark challenge to the permanence of island features. As water rises, many low-lying features face the prospect of failing the fundamental legal test that grants them island status. So you can see here above water at high tide. So that's what the like what the UNCLOS is. UNCLOS Article 121 is very clear. It should be above water at the high tide. So that means even during, because of the sea level rise, because sometimes it might be submerged and it will not be visible above water during high tide. So that then they will lose the status of an island according to UNCLOS, and because of that they will lose the maritime zones. And because of the losing of maritime zones, again they will lose the they will lose the economy also. They will lose its economy, right? So low tide elevations. So you can see if a former island becomes exposed only to a low tide, it becomes a low tide elevation. Low tide elevation cannot generate their own maritime zones and are only relevant for baseline drawing if located within 12 nautical miles of the mainland or a lake. And because of that, there will be a total extension also. As I already said, there will be total extension. The loss of island status means the complete extension of the EEZs continental shelf, right? And that feature currently generates potentially hundreds of thousands of square kilometers of ocean space, and its resources are being extended. Because of this extension, the state will lose its economy, right? And artificial islands cannot save sovereignty, as I already said. So there is an artificial island which is generated, like there is a 7 dash lines, I mean 9 dash lines across South China, which there are a lot of small islands have been developed or converted into, I mean lot of rocks are converted into an artificial island. They are making an island as a naval base. But what will happen? But whether the artificial island can have the maritime zones, but Article 60 Clause 8 is absolute under UNCLOS. UNCLOS says that despite their physical utility in creating new land masses, artificial islands, installations, and structures do not possess the status of islands under UNCLOS. So UNCLOS says it is no more an island; it is just an artificial island, and artificial island can only have 500-meter safety zone. These artificial islands are not granted power to generate territorial sea or contiguous zone also. They can just have 500-meter safety zone, nothing more than that. So they have no effect of delimitation of maritime zones, right? And so they cannot serve as a sovereignty markers to fix baseline or generate maritime zones beyond a limited safety area. So artificial islands cannot save sovereignty also, right? So and partly islands in maritime delimitation, so balancing equity in boundary setting. So when states negotiate maritime boundaries, islands often complicate the process. International law has developed nuanced approaches to ensure that boundaries reflect equitable principle rather than the geographical accidents. So initially I was saying about the maritime boundary delimitation between two adjacent states, that is countries, or between two opposite countries, right? So in between two opposite countries, if there is an island, and if that particular island belongs to one particular state, think about the situation. It is complicated, right? Which country, or whether that, if that is an island, and first we have to identify whether that is an island or else it is low tide elevation that is just visible only during the low tide elevation and not during the high tide. So whether it generates maritime zones on itself, because the simple example is Andaman and Nicobar Island of India generates its own maritime zones. It is an island, it is proved, but sometimes there are low tide elevations which cannot be an island, right? So that they just have only territorial sea and contiguous zone and not the EEs. So all these things are there when it comes to maritime delimitation in between a particular two adjacent states or an opposite state. When there is a island, then it is much more complicated to draw a maritime delimitation. So the equitable solution standard has to be used under Article 83, as I already said. So when there is an equitable, what is equitable solution over there? So, as I was saying, between India and Bangladesh, so there should be an equitable solution. So there should be the equitable solution is, there is no definition of an equitable solution under UNCLOS. But what is equitable solution according to ICJ or ICLOS is that the both the states should not lose it. So both the states should gain something out of maritime delimitation, right? And that is what have to be done when in case of island which is there in between the two states during maritime boundary delimitation, and island should be treated as a special circumstances. So various ICJ, ICLOS, arbitral panels commonly treat islands as a special circumstances. So to prevent disproportionate results that could favor one state unfairly. So that is the thing which is there. And the three effects are applied to islands and delimitation. ICJ or ICLOS or maritime arbitrations. What they will do is that sometimes there will be no effect. They will not, even though there is an island, it will not be considered at all. The island is disregarded entirely, and the boundary is drawn as if only the main coastline existed. Applied to very small, uninhabited or remote feature that would otherwise create inequitable distortions. So if you give importance to that particular island which is uninhabited or which is a very small feature, I am using the term uninhabited. I am not saying human habitation is not possible. Human habitation is possible, but it is uninhabited, right? So when you concentrate or when you give a status of an island to that particular feature, then there will be a lot of distortions which has to be made between two adjacent states or an opposite states. So during those conditions, what ICJ, International Court of Justice, or ICLOS, or Tribunal of Law of the Sea, or Maritime Arbitration, what they will do is that they will give no effect to the island. Sometimes they give partial effect. The island's baseline is used to generate only a fractional portion of its theoretical entitlement. This creates a compromise that acknowledges the island's presence without allowing it to dominate the boundary. So this is what actually done during the India-Bangladesh maritime boundary delimitation also. So there are some small insular features, and they are considered as, they are given a partial effect. They will be considered, but they will not give a full effect. And sometimes they will give a full effect. Full effect in the sense they will the island will generate all the maritime zones. It has all the things. So accordingly, they will delimitate the maritime boundaries, right? So, and what is the way forward from here? So we have seen like legal and policy options for maritime stability. That is, the international community faces an urgent need to reconcile the ambulatory nature of baselines. So, according to the present law, according to the present UNCLOS, there are a lot of due to the sea level rise, there are a lot of changes which are happening, and because of that, the baselines are ambulatory. They are dynamic in nature. They have to shift inside, and because of that, the states are losing their sovereignty. There is no legal certainty, right? And the core challenge is that the maritime boundaries, once established, are presumed to be permanent and not subject to physical change. So this is what like states are thinking about. But sea level rises forces the international community to formalize and extend this principle to all baselines and outer limits. So this maritime boundary, once established, once EEZ is fixed, or once continental shelf is fixed, that is the outer limit. That is called as a maritime boundary limit. Once they are established, they are fixed. Even though there is a retreat of baseline, they are fixed. But this baseline is not fixing it, right? They are retreating, they are moving inside. Because of that, according to UNCLOS, you have to change the territorial sea, you have to change the contiguous zone. That is again not possible, right? So what can be done is fixing the baseline. So the ideal, but then it is a very harder path. And the General Assembly has to pass the resolution. So there should be a new law or a new provision, new amendment which has to be made to the UNCLOS. But whether it is possible, again it's very hard, because the present UNCLOS is, has been come into force after 30 years of long negotiation, and now countries are in need of a lot of resources. They are in their race to become super countries. right? And they will not lose anything. And it is very hard to convince all the countries to freeze those baselines. Okay, the goal is because only the low-lying lands, that is, an highland, is going to face a lot of difficulties because of the sea level rise. All right, and even developing countries will face it. But when it comes to developed countries, they will not agree, right? So the goal is to legally freeze those baselines as they existed on a specific fixed date. So if India is freezing the baseline today in 2025, and that particular baseline will be frozen, and it will be there till the end. Even if there is a sea level rise, even that baseline is not a low water line. So that is the freezing of baseline. Permanent, giving a permanent structure. It is not a non-ambulatory. It will not be dynamic. Just freezing the baseline. This provides the most comprehensive protection, but requires unprecedented international consensus. Creating a consensus, I mean, getting a consensus is not possible. I mean, it is very hard. It is not possible. It is very hard to convince them. And the option two is fixing the outer limits. Otherwise, fix the outer limit. Outer limit in the sense, EEZ. Fix the EEZ. Either fix the baseline or fix the outer limit of the maritime boundary, right? This approach agrees that states through bilateral treaties, regional agreements, international declaration establish the outer limit of the EEZ and continental shelf are permanent. So this aligns with the stability on already inherent in the existing boundary. You see, once the outer limit is fixed, then the resources are not lost. The EEZ resources are not lost. Even though the baseline is going to retreat, the state is going to enjoy the same amount of resources which they enjoyed earlier. Right? Either to fix the baseline or either to fix the outer limits. So that's more important. And the path to international consensus. So both options required coordinated actions among states, particularly those most affected. Nowadays, like you can see, the Pacific Islands Forum or Alliance of Small Island States have already begun advocating for permanence principle. So there is a union, there is a regional alliances which is formed, like a small island states are now advocating for a permanence principle. You fix the baseline now itself, we are going to get affected. Maybe after down the lane, after 50 years or 100 years down the lane, this state might not be existing also, or this particular island become a low tide elevation. It will no more called be an island. And if you are not fixing anything, if you are not permanenting the zones, then it is going to, I mean, we are going to lose it. Though those islands, nations are advocating for a permanence principle, the ultimate goal is that whatever we say, whatever we discuss, whatever we argue, the ultimate goal is that the universal consensus. Because getting this universal consensus is very difficult. Uh, like whether there is a need for a new UNCLOS, whether it is possible for the states to draft a new UNCLOS, it's a big question. It's all about political pressures. International politics are involved. Geopolitics is involved. So fixing this or having a universal consensus only fix this particular problem. Otherwise, there will be a lot of shift, or there will be legal uncertainty which will be prevailing down the lane after 3 years or 100 years or even 20-30 years due to the rapid sea level rise which is happening today, right? And I guess like thereby I end this session. Now I am happy to have any questions. Let's discuss if you have any questions.
Sir, actually, did you finish the session?
Yes, ma'am. Like I covered what I want to cover.
Yeah, okay, okay. So shall I ask some questions?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. So, in the first question, how might rising sea level challenge the permanence of baselines under UNCLOS, and should international law evolve to adapt fixed or ambulatory baselines?
Yes, that's what I'm also saying now. Like it is, there should be a new law. There is no doubt in that. If there is no law, then there will be a legal uncertainty which is going to provide. So when you see when the existing law, when either Article 15 or either Article 83 or 74, whatever you say, this is just saying about the delimitation, agreement, equidistant, and equitable solution between the states which are opposite or adjacent to each other. But when it comes to baseline is something which has been defined under Article 5 and Article 6, Article 5 and Article 7, which clearly says about the low water line. So low water line is something which will be changing by day to day because of the sea level rise. If there is no permanence which has been established under an UNCLOS, either to fix the baseline or either to fix the outer maritime boundary limit, then definitely the the countries are going to face problems, and there will be a legal uncertainty. There will not be any uniformity. Each state will claim their own way of fixing this particular legal uncertainty which is prevailing, and UNCLOS being established as a uniform law for governing the ocean will lose its core principle and will not be able to do justice either.
Oh, thank you, sir. What potential conflicts would emerge between neighboring coastal states if EEZs and maritime boundaries shift due to submerging coastlines?
Yes, definitely. There will be a lot of loss in GDPs. See, imagine about the Maldives, or imagine about the small island nations, because these small island nations, the GDP depends upon the sea. That is the blue economy. The whole country's economy is based on sea. When this is not going to be fixed, when or when continental shelf is not going to fix, and because of the sea level rise, if they are going to lose their sovereignty or sovereign rights over all these particular zones, then definitely they are going to face the economic crisis because of that. And sometimes, as I already said, there will be a concept of climate refugees. When the entire island is being submerged in water, then where they will go? Where the population will go? Will the population be absorbed by other countries which are nearby? And if they absorb, whether they claim any sovereignty over the existing maritime boundaries which was existed based on that particular island, whether they are going to get those resources, whether they have an equipment to cover all those things. So all these things should be considered. Majorly, they will lose GDP, and they have other implications also, including the citizenship, climate refugees, and other things.
Yeah, thank you, sir. New legal frameworks or treaties be necessary to address the loss of maritime zones by island nations most affected by sea level rise.
Ma'am, can you come again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure. New legal frameworks or treaties be necessary to address the loss of maritime zones by island nations most affected by sea level rise.
Yes, yes, definitely, because there are, again, as I already stated, we have Association of Small Island States. They have also filed advisory opinion under ITLAWs for freezing the maritime zones and other aspects. Because see, country like India will face, yes, of course they will face they will lose their sovereign rights to an extent. But think about the small island nations like Tuvalu, they will completely submerge, or they will lose the almost 50 to 70% of their land. Then of course they will lose their maritime zones, and they will be very difficult. They will face the large economic crisis, and there should be a new law. And of course, either there should be an existing amendment to amendment to the existing law, or there should be a new law which has to be framed for these small island states at least. Otherwise, there should be a law which allows the small island states alone to freeze the zones and not the other states. So all these things have to be considered. when it comes to when the countries are going to draft a new law, bring a new law on this point.
Sir,
Yeah.
Yes.
sir, as we have discussed, it seems there is a serious threat for islands for the possibility of future immersion into water,
Yes.
and that is due to high water level of sea, maybe due to climate change. Is there any possibility of introducing laws to avert this sea high level and avoid future immersion of island that related to natural, I mean, climate changes? Is it possible with related to UNCLOS
It's a very good
in
question.
future?
So you see, like when it comes to the new law to avert the climate change or sea level rise, that is again, it's not possible. It's not. It just see, we can just like what we can do is that we can extend the time, by having some kind of an environmental measure, right? So you have various framework on United Nations Convention on Climate Change. We have the Paris Convention and the other conventions to to mitigate all these a rapid change in the sea level rise. We can just change, or we can just do things which slow down this process. But sea level rise is no more a myth. So definitely there is going to be who knows, there will be a new nation which is going to come up in the other part of the world, and there will be a submergence of existing nations, right? So there will be a sea level rise, and it is no more a myth, and it will happen for sure. But like humans should not act as a humans, in the sense our activity should not act as a catalyst towards it, right? The laws can be framed in such a way to mitigate or to slow down the process. But definitely there should be a law to address this particular change in the sea level baseline or the other maritime zones or whatever it is. Uh, yeah, that's what we have we can do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, participants, if you have any other questions, please you can ask. Guys,
So any
anybody have
question?
any question?
Any questions?
Okay, sir. Some questions from my end.
Yes.
How might disputes over resources like fisheries or offshore energy intensify as boundaries and EEZ entitlements are altered by climate change?
See, again, this similar question. See, the thing is, when it comes to change in the baseline, change in the maritime zones, because the present feature or present say you have an oil rig at your territorial sea, or even in your contiguous zone, or whatever it is. If there is a sea level rise, and because of that there is a shift of baselines, then of course there will be loss of zones. I mean, loss of area, sovereign rights over it, and because of that you will lose your particular right over that particular rig also sometimes, right? And when it comes to other aspect of fishing and other things. This, of course, exclusive economic rights. The term itself specifies that it is an exclusive right which is given to the coastal state. So the coastal state will have an exclusive right to fish, exclusive right to exploit the resources, exclusive right to explore the resources which is underneath the ocean. Because of the shift in the baseline and because of the shift in the maritime zones, then there will definitely be a shortage of I mean, zones. There will be the zones are going to shrinken, and because of that, you are going to lose certain rights over the other areas also, earlier which was earlier yours, right? And because of that, GDP will also get affected, right? Indirectly.
Thank you, sir. That's my last question. In
Yes.
the long term, what role can international courts and tribunals play in ensuring equitable solutions to maritime disputes caused by sea level rise?
So ICJ or ITLOS is just it's just an interpreter of law. They can just they can just come up with the principles, discuss the doctrines, or discuss the law which was there. It is the General Assembly, it is the UN who have to take steps. It is the countries, international community should come forward and frame a new law, or amend the existing law to have a solution or equitable solution. As you say, it is rightly pointed by you, it's an equitable solution. So equitable solution can be framed only by the communities. UNCLOS or ITLOS, I mean ITLOS or ICJ, they can just discuss on case to case basis, and when there is a lacuna they can try to fill those lacunas by their own way of interpretation of the existing statutes. So yeah, by way of interpretation of an existing statutes, in the sense, when it comes to article 74 or article 83, it says about equitable solution, and this equitable solution has not been defined, and because of that, UNCLOS or ITLOS as the, I mean, not UNCLOS, sorry, ICJ or ITLOS has the power to interpret in such a way to address this sea level rise in its own way of interpretation, and and provide an equitable solution to the particular parties to the case, but not the entire nations. Right? Only the parties to the case can succeed. And again, whether the judgment are binding, no, binding to the other party, no. ICJ's judgments are not binding to the other nations. It is just binding to the parties. So there will not be any uniformity which will be formed. So to have an uniform law, definitely there is a need for an amendment or a new framework to fill this lacuna. Because UNCLOS 1982 has drafted with the notion that there will not be any change in the geographical boundaries of the states. But now we are facing it because of the sea level rise. So when there is a new threat, then that threat has to be addressed by the new provisions, or I mean new doctrines, new principles, new laws, and not with the existing laws. Existing laws can only, like, with the help of existing laws you can just only interpret, and to an extent you can apply to it, but there will not be a permanent solution. So when you want a permanent solution, you have to change the law or bring in the new law. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the useful answers, sirs. They have been really helpful in clarifying the topic. I hope the participants were able to follow along and understand the key points shared. Your insights have certainly added value to the session. So, on behalf of everyone present here, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Saravanan, Assistant Professor of Law at Vinayaka Missions Law School, for delivering such an insightful and thought provoking session today. Your deep knowledge of maritime law, ocean governance, and climate change challenges has truly enriched our understanding of the legal implications of rising sea levels on maritime boundaries and EEZs under UNCLOS. We sincerely appreciate the time, effort, and passion you invested in sharing your expertise with us. Your session has not only expanded our perspectives but has also inspired us to think critically about the future of international maritime law. So once again, thank you, sir, for your valuable contribution and for guiding us with your wisdom. We look forward to many more opportunities to learn from you in the future. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again. I hope you guys have note down my contact numbers and other email address. If you have any queries, the participants have any queries, they are feel free to write to me or call me at any time. Thank you everyone for the and also thank you mastering up for the kind invitation for this particular session.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah.